everybody. I'm Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Believe in Colts podcast.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, my new co-host, Donald Thomas. Donald, how are you doing, my guy? How have you been?
I've been good, man. I'm glad to be here. It's week 2 of the NFL season. Believe in Colts podcast. We're here for the year. It's a great feeling. Thank you for having me. I look forward to talking Colts and talking football and breaking this thing down.
Absolutely. There's a lot to go over. We're getting ready to go over the Indianapolis Colts traveling to NRG Stadium to face the Houston Texans this Sunday. We'll probably go a little bit over what we saw from this past Sunday against Jacksonville. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that we ain't going to be able to cover in this episode that we're going to have to probably do in a different episode, because there's so. Before we started on here, we started talking, and we were talking for a half an hour about just different stuff that could definitely be filled in future shows. So I can't wait to really get this started with you this season. Again, offensive-minded guy, former offensive lineman. You're a coach, a trainer, and that's a lot of insight that I think is going to be incredibly valuable, not just to myself, but those watching the show. So appreciate you being here, my guy.
No doubt.
All right. So before we get into it, I want to remind everybody that BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, NFL, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember, use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's start the show off a little bit by kind of going over what we saw this past Sunday against Jacksonville. And was there anything that you saw that kind of worried you? Not necessarily, works in progress of the youth, but something that you're like, okay, this is a problem that needs to be fixed now, or we're going to have issues the rest of the season.
Yeah. It's week 1, so you can cherry pick whatever from any phase of the game. My biggest takeaway was in the fourth quarter on defense. I think defense played a somewhat solid game overall for the Colts. But when it was time for the defense to really buckle down, and we had the turnover and the score, and they scored twice in like 60-something seconds, like there was so much breakdown. Like, the strength of this defense is the defensive line, in my opinion, 1,000%. Like, their effectiveness to get to the quarterback, it just went away all of a sudden, right? And the linebacking core covering these receivers and these tight ends, I just didn't see it. It just wasn't there. As far as, it was just too many breakdowns in that short span of time when you have a rookie quarterback, right? And so you're trying to keep this game within reach, and we just break down like that in the fourth quarter. Like, we've got to become a fourth quarter football team. And I think that's been an Achilles heel for the Colts for a very, very long time, of being a fourth quarter team. It's like either they sink or swim in the fourth quarter. And like, we've got to swim in the fourth quarter, right? We can't just go downhill, because the game is 60 minutes and we got to play all 60. And I felt like the Colts put together a pretty competitive 40-something minutes of football, and then we just kind of like, yeah. So there's got to be more urgency when it comes to defense, because we kind of know what we're going to get on offense right now. The run game's a work in progress. The quarterback's a work in progress. Offensive line's a work. I mean, the whole offense is a work in progress. And we're going to take baby steps to start off with the season of getting the feel for it, getting Richardson comfortable, finding out what this run game is going to look like, trying to turn the bottom of the roster of the NFL to try to find a running back to bring in and roster moves to try to, change that room up. Are you going to have Jonathan Taylor back week 5? He's coming off the PUP list. Is he even going to be motivated to play? So we're trying to figure out what the run game is going to be. We just don't have a run game right now, but we really don't have, in my opinion, we don't have that mindset right now of who we're going to be. It's right. It's just it's an evolution every week of what this offense is going to turn into.
Yeah. One thing I want to kind of stack on top of that, kind of similar to last year, right? Where you would see the defense would play great half, maybe 3/4 of a game, and then, things would kind of fall apart. My thing is there's a lot of weight on the shoulders of the defense when you have an offense that is, as you said, a work in progress with the offensive line, the rookie quarterback, running game not working properly. And, that defense was very stiff. Like you said, 3/4 of the game, very stiff. They were making plays. They were getting stops. They were doing great. The offense has to find a way to help a little bit as well, right? They got to be able to string together some first downs to give the defense a bit of a breather, right? Between the times that they're on the field, because you go out there and you have a 3 and out, or you have 4 or 5 plays, and then, next thing you know, it's a turnover because of a fumble or an interception or something like that. That's putting even more weight on the shoulders of the defense. Now, these are all professionals. These are guys that are paid to do this. And it's not just one individual player. That's why you have depth, right? To be able to move guys in and out and keep guys fresh for that type of situation. But the offense also had that change in the fourth quarter, right? Where in the first 3 quarters, I thought they looked good, outside of the run game. Now, the run game looked poor the whole day. But when it came to the passing game, I thought Richardson looked nice. I thought he was accurate. He was, limited. It seemed like he was limited on the kind of passes he was making. I think that has to do with more what the coaches were wanting him to do more than, his own personal decision-making in some aspects. But the play calls looked completely different from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. First quarter, you were seeing pistol formations and movement and things of that nature, where you had different things moving around and stuff that you're just not. I saw a play where literally the tight end was lined up as the left tackle. Okay, and I'm like, what? And then the left tackle was actually the right tackle. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Actually, it's kind of playing the tight end position as an eligible.
Right. Yeah. He went outside.
From what I can see. Yes. Yep. And I was like, this is stuff that I love seeing. This is new stuff that's going to put a wrinkle in the offense. It's going to make, defenses go, oh, I got to think about what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
That was stuff we didn't see in the fourth quarter. It became more basic RPO, shotgun, things of that nature. And it made it easier, I think, for defenses to kind of clamp down on the offense.
So I'm glad that you picked up on that and you saw that, right? And you have to look at it from a lens of an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. At that point, there's 2 different types. In my opinion, I play for a number of offensive coordinators, and there's some that are just like, they don't care what it is. We're like, this is my offense. This is what I run. We're going to stick to this. We're going to stay in the game with this, right? And then there's always the coordinators that kind of change up as the game goes from, this is who I am, this is what we run, to survival mode, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that's what the OC did in this game, but you saw how they changed up. They got more traditional. They got more vanilla, right? Mm-hmm. And so that might not be who the Colts really are right now, is to be a vanilla team where we're just like, we come and we line up like this and we're in a traditional sets, and we just got, 2x2 formations, blah, 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 because now it's giving the defense less to think about, and they can really stick to their guns and play, and you're not fooling anybody in what you're doing. You're not putting guys in motion. And that's something that the Colts really are going to really need A lot of moving parts before the ball snap, a lot of having the defense, you see them checking it, you getting the linebackers getting the D-line lined up correctly, and we snap the ball and we're off, and we get 8 yards on a play because the defense couldn't even get lined up. So where now it's like you're playing from behind, everyone's kind of getting tense and tight, and the play calling goes to just some basic formation with some basic route running, and when you know what's coming, and the defense is like, oh, we know what this is. We saw this on film. We sit back, we just go ahead and pick this thing off, or we know what's coming. It's just like the first play of the game for the Colts. That, because there's a script, and we go over the script the night before. We say, hey, these are the first 10 plays we're coming out, so you guys know what these first 10 plays are going to be. That first play was going to be a screen. Well, they knew when they saw that 3 receiver set over there what the maybe 1 or 2 possibilities were. And then you saw just from there, I said, this is when I like to look at it like I know the team's going to have a problem from the first play on offense or defense for that team, for that possession. When I saw how aggressive Jacksonville was on that screenplay, they knew it was coming, and I believe it was Pittman that was blocking. He had no shot at blocking that corner, and that corner was way more aggressive. They knew it was coming, and they came downhill right away, and it was just like, but the play was already predetermined. We want to get the ball out of your hands quick. You don't have to do any reads. Just throw the football, get it out. We'll see what we can get. We get a couple yards. Next play. And I just saw, I was like, yeah, they're aggressive. They want to rattle, the Colts quick. I want to see the Colts respond and come back, have a good drive. They don't need to score. Yeah, I don't need to score on the first opening drive. I want to see what type of team I have. Let's get a couple first downs. Let's move the football. Let's establish something like, hey, we came to play too. Y'all ain't going to just bully us around the field. We came to play too.
Absolutely. I actually thought that the screenplay out of that bunch formation was a good play as a first play for, the rookie quarterback to kind of get that out of the system, get that first completion, right? It's an easy, quick completion. If you get something out of it, great. If not, it's no big loss right away, right?
Yeah.
It's more settle that rookie's nerves.
Get your first completion. Just get a completion. Get that ball off, because I tell you what, it felt different. Throwing that football felt different. My first play of my NFL career, it was just it was inside zone. It felt different. It was not different. It was football, right? But it's your nerves. You're a human being. You just got to get that out of your system so that you can be like, all right, I'm good. First play's over with. Let's just go play. And you just have to help him out that way. And it's no different for anybody.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's nerves for everything. Once you get that play out of the way, maybe a couple more, and then it just starts settling in, and the same thing that you've been doing for years and years now, and you just get into that rhythm, right? I think I want to go ahead, since we're already 13 minutes into the show, we're going to go ahead and get into the preview of this upcoming game against the Houston Texans. And man, I just got done rewatching that game, and they look about as disorganized as the Colts do in some aspects, even worse in others, right? Yeah. That's what I got out of that, is they had a lot of penalties. Their offense, they got offensive line issues, right?
Yes.
I think it has a lot to do with their injuries across their offensive line, though.
But
still, they were having serious issues. And I feel like there is places that this Colts team can seriously exploit defensively and offensively when they travel to Houston this Sunday.
I will agree with you on that. I think, and I'm biased, right? So I'm always going to say the game starts up front. But right now, the Colts have a tremendous advantage on defense up front. I mean, if the D line comes to play like they're supposed to, if they take advantage of these guys that are out, Tunzel's out. He didn't practice. I don't know how long he's out for, if he's going to play or what. But there's holes on the Texans' offensive line that the defense can really, take advantage of. I mean, I want to see DeForest Buckner up there. He should have 3 sacks this game. He should have, 6 solo tackles and 4 QB hurries. Like, All those guys up front should be pinning their ears back and getting through that line. I really think that there's that mismatch there. And then on the other side of the football, I think the Texans have a decent defensive line, but I'm gonna give the edge to the Colts offensive line. I think that it's time now where we kind of establish some type of run game, and whether it's going to be inside or outside, it has to be established. And I feel like if we can get that run game established, I'm not asking for 120, 150 yards rushing on the day, which would be great as offensive lineman, right? From my standpoint, but I'm asking for, can we average at least 3 yards a carry?
Please.
Can we average 3 yards? If we can average 3 yards a carry, we win the football game, because now we're taking so much pressure off Anthony. If we could take some pressure off of his shoulders, the Colts have the advantage. I think if the Colts are a far superior team than the Texans historically, and right now, just looking at the depth chart, looking at the first game on from in preseason, they look a lot better than the Texans. But I also know that the Colts, we have a lot of work to do as well.
Absolutely. Now the Colts have had a lot of success in Houston over the years. And I just got done getting off a podcast with another Texans podcast, and their rant. They want to win this game badly to try to put the past behind them and put a new, era in front, because they have not had any luck with the Indianapolis Colts at their own stadium. T.Y. Hilton has owned them. T.Y. and Luck owned them for years, right?
They should honestly have a statue of those two down there. T.Y. and Andrew we used to go off down there, man. They had career games. Yeah.
But I agree with the pin in your ears back. The one thing that worries me, Dameon Pierce is a real deal running back in the league, right? So when you're pinning your ears back and going, make sure you're not leaving your gap when you're doing so, right?
Correct.
Because if you do that, you're leaving an open lane for a very good running back if it happens to be a run play, right? So, make sure that you stay in your gaps, but make sure that you're getting back there behind the line of scrimmage to create that disruption one way or another, whether it's the run game or in the pass game. That disruption, it should be there. We have an incredibly good front seven, and it showed last week, right? So that's I agree with you. That's where the game starts, right? Period. End of discussion. That the trenches by far is where the game starts, and we have the huge advantage in that area. Offensively, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, first off, Andrew Ogletree, I hope you get off concussion protocol this week. My goodness, man. That hurt bad. I love the fact that you jumped back up real quick, but man, when he jumped back up, I saw him stagger.
It wasn't right. I saw it too. I said
a little bit. And I'm like,
try to get up with that little waiver that he did. I was like,
But he did not practice yesterday. He's got to at least get limited today so that he can get full practice tomorrow. And then possibly, he has to, his first step is he's got to get past it to get limited today so that he can have a chance at playing. If he doesn't at least get limited today, he can't play Sunday, because you got to go limited, then full, and then on Saturday you got to be cleared, through the new concussion protocol.
I struggle with the concussion deal. Just because I know how real it is. And I also know but it's also a fine line, because they're like, you, as soon as you go into the protocol, it's like you got to go through the hurdles. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's serious business, right? So I hope he is able to play, but if he ain't ready to play, he just ain't ready to play. I
100% agree.
Yeah, like I want to see the kid out there. I want to see him doing well, but like if he ain't ready to go, like someone else has got to step up, right? Someone else. Oh yeah,
definitely. Don't cut
this
corner.
Is a game where you can't. But this is a game where he could have a breakout game, in my opinion, against the Texans. And I'm like, when I saw him get hurt, I was like, wow, man, he's out the rest of the game, and he probably ain't gonna be back next week, because depending on how severe it is, right? Like, concussions are really real.
Kylan Granson, I expect to have a monster game. Now, looking at the Colts receiving core, the secondary for the Texans, they do have one really good corner in Derek Stingley, right? I think he's a second-year player now.
Yes.
But he played pretty good against the Ravens last week. I think he held his guy to like 3 catches for like 20 yards or something like that for the whole game whenever his guy was targeted, which is pretty impressive. So first off, we need to find a way, in my opinion. Yes, obviously wide receivers, we want to see more from them this game than what we did last week. But again, I feel like we have very good talent at the tight end position for this Indianapolis. The athleticism and, the ability to create mismatches, I think favors the Indianapolis Colts tight ends across the board. Even if Andrew Ogletree can't play, we might end up, Will Mallory, the rookie, who also showed a lot of promise in the preseason, right?
Yeah.
That's a guy I feel like he could probably step in for Ogletree when needed and be that, very similar to Kylan Granson as that vertical quick threat, that passing threat of a tight end.
Yeah.
I think that's a situation that's important, but you are 100% right. We cannot walk into this game and average 2.1 yards a run and expect to win anything. Okay.
Not in the NFL, you can.
I mean, you got to get yourself into manageable situations. And if on first down, you're getting 2.1 yards, you're setting yourself up at 2nd and 8. That's not a good advantage situation. That's putting you in a hole, right?
Now, 2nd and 6 sounds a lot better, and we can open the playbook up a little bit more, and we can do some different things.
Exactly. Or at 3rd and 6. Now, that's a bad situation, right? Because if you're only getting 2 yards on first down, 2 yards on second, next thing you know, you're 3rd and 6. Defense knows you're not running the football.
You got to put yourself in a better position. I think, like the Colts really have to come out, and I think an emphasis this week to beat the Texans is going to be we've got to establish the run game. Mm-hmm. We've got to come out. We've got to. It's not we have to establish the pass game. It ain't that. It's going to be we have to establish the run game, and if we can do that, now when you get an extra guy out of the box, we're not having 7 guys in the box. We're not having a safety over the top. They have to respect our passing game, and now that really opens up the run game even more. But that also opens up Anthony Richardson to be able to open up his Pandora's box when it comes to him of doing some different things. You know what I'm saying? And the run, and I'm gonna say this too: the run game cannot be Anthony Richardson all design runs. It can't be that, right? It can't be power, QB, keep, right? It's got to be, because you don't want to see what we saw last Sunday with our, number 1 draft pick walking out of the stadium with a bag of ice around his knee. It's not something we want to see, and it's not just be precaution. His knee was sore, right? Yeah. So we want to keep him healthy, and he's got to learn too. He's got to slide. He's got to. But if you're doing quarterback design runs, ain't but so much sliding you can do, because you got to put your shoulder down and get a yard. So we got to establish it with these running backs, and there's a huge task for the offensive line. And I already know that meeting room this week, there's a lot of focus on that meeting room. I guarantee you that meeting room has the most focus on it. I bet you they had coaches on the offensive line coaches. He might even pop his head in there while they're watching film. He might, came and said something during, the offensive unit meetings. They're saying something, but they all know we got to get that. We got to get the run game going to take some pressure off of our quarterback.
Absolutely. And you got to have a threat of a deep pass occasionally. And there was 0 threats of that. Now the Colts ran a lot of go and fly patterns in the game against the Jaguars, but they were never thrown to, right? Because of just a lot of short, quick passes by Anthony Richardson. There were times when Richardson had time in the pocket, where he had a clean pocket, where he could have, sat there and went, okay, 1,000. All right, no. 2 1,000. All right, no. 3 1,000. Oh, look, there's Alec Pierce wide open, no one within 10 yards of him,
Right.
40 yards down the field.
Right.
You know, we got to be able to at least take a shot occasionally. If you see even one-on-one coverage down the field with no safety help, take a shot once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Because at least that will present a different challenge to the defense, to where they don't have to be crept up all the time. They actually have to be worried about that deep shot once in a while.
Yeah.
And that'll open things up for your run game and, you know, your short passing game and things of that nature. Take those shots once in a while. Anthony Richardson was known for his shots. You know, he's got a beautiful deep ball. Let him use it occasionally. You don't have to use it a lot. 2 to 4 times a game is enough, in my opinion. 2 to 4 times, just that threat. And at least early on, that
you know what? Because he can throw a deep ball is great, right? But you got to be able to throw an accurate deep ball. When I say throw an accurate deep ball, I'm saying it's either a playable ball or it's not a playable ball. Not a ball that goes up and it's safety or the corner's up there waiting just to pick it off because it's either a little bit underthrown or it's severely overthrown and the safety just gets it. It's got to be either you're able to throw that ball and put it right in the basket, or it's out of bounds and it's not playable, so it's a turnover. And I think they don't fully trust Anthony yet to be able to make that decision throwing that deep ball, if it's going to be just up for grabs, a 50-50 ball, or is it going to be, unplayable and it's like, all right, we live to see another down. I just don't feel like they have that confidence yet to just, release the reins for him. But at some point, a ball's got to get thrown down the field. Week 2, week 3, we got to start, because if we don't do that, then we're just making it harder on the offensive line, making it harder on our run game. We're making it harder on, just the whole offense in general, because we're just condensing our playbook. So if they can open it up, I think I feel like they will open it up. I feel like they're going to take a shot early in this game to make the Texans have to respect their passing game. And I feel like if they take that shot within the first couple of series of the game, the Texans have to respect the pass game. They're going to have to back off and play off the ball a little bit. And that's going to open up some things for them up front in the run game. They have to do it.
Well, yeah, and there's ways. I fully expect the majority of the defenses that the Colts play against will be running a lot of cover 2, cover 3 defense zones, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Anthony Richardson can move. And you want all 11 guys with their eyes back on the quarterback in case he takes off. I get that. I understand that. But there are absolutely ways you can scheme up different routes to where you can make a safety make a decision. Am I going to be helping him or am I covering this guy over the middle? And that'll give those deep shot opportunities for Anthony Richardson where, maybe it's a busted coverage. Maybe he gets one-on-one. You can do that. And because I had a lot of questions from guys on Twitter about, well, can't you scheme that open? You absolutely can. There were opportunities all the time. You get the inside guy running a corner route. You get the outside guy running, a post route, kind of like a scissors route, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
You got to you got to make a decision on who you're covering, right? Like
exactly.
Especially when it's cover 1 or cover 2, you have to go with someone. So there's got these crossing routes, you're able to confuse the defense a little bit, or just make them have to pick who's going to who, or who's covering who, or someone's going to mess up at some point, right? But it can't be our quarterback. He's got to make the right read. And so that's the difficult part, right? We can scheme it up, but now it comes down to our quarterback making the right read and throwing the right ball to the right receiver.
Again, another thing, like I said, it seemed like that in game 1, Richardson was on kind of a throw ticker, right? He had to get rid of the ball within a certain period of time in his mind, it seemed like, because it was like all really quick passes. In college, I understand there wasn't a lot of great tape, but what I did see from him was he knew how to look safeties off, right? I watched that from him. I could watch him look this way, he'd look that way, and the safety would kind of creep over, and he'd just be like, bam, and shoot once the safety moved a little bit. Got him moving. Do that as well. I understand that's going to add an extra second, to him holding the football to look a safety off. But you can add that with your crossing patterns, with your scissors and all that stuff. So absolutely, man. There's opportunities there. Now, obviously, you want to put a guy in as much of a positive situation as you can. Make sure the running back is back there to help with in case there's a blitz or something of that nature that he doesn't
Correct.
see, things like that. But
Yep.
there's definitely ways to do it, and I'm hoping that Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator, realize this. I have faith in them. Like I said, I saw a lot of good stuff in the first half that I was like, this is amazing. I want to see more of this. But I got a feeling they didn't want to show their whole hand week 1, right? I mean, you don't want to do that, right?
No, I don't think it's that they didn't want to show their hand in week 1. I think that they didn't want to put too much on everybody's plate in week 1.
Yeah.
If they had a more seasoned offensive line, a more seasoned offense in general, our playbook is open. Now, what is going to be the scheme for this game and what are we planning to do in this game? Certain plays aren't going to work against this team. But I just felt like they were like, all right, we can't do too much. We're going to do this, what we've been practicing for the past 2 weeks since the preseason's kind of been over with, preparing for this game and evaluating what was going to work and trying to make sure that we fine-tune that. And so that kind of condensed their playbook to, you saw, that's what they practiced those first 2 weeks. What they did in the fourth quarter, in my opinion, is what they've been doing all training camp, right? With everyone else that didn't make the roster, that didn't make the team, where we're just running our basic offense. Who can run this? Who can run that? So we can evaluate guys. And that's what they went back to in the fourth quarter, was the basic offense. It wasn't what we were practicing the last 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And so when they went back to that, it was defense looking around like, it's 2x2 set. This is very, very vanilla. They're just trying to get a score. They're trying to move the ball down the field, not confusing, a bump, check, making checks and all that kind of stuff. You saw it wasn't as many calls. If you really watch the defense, this is what I want fans to really look at. Watch everything, right? Try to go back and watch everything. Watch what the defense was doing in the fourth quarter for Jacksonville. Watch how they were more relaxed, right? They were just able, they out-physical, the Colts all up front for sure, at linebacker for sure. When they were making tackles coming up, they were just way more aggressive because there was less to think about. Yep. But when you have putting guys in motion and you're coming out with unbalanced looks and you got, four offensive linemen on one side of the ball, right? And you got a tight end on the backside. Now you're like, okay, unbalanced look. How do we defend this? Making sure you're getting guys lined up the correct way and you run out the back door. That's confusing to a defense, especially when there wasn't any tape on them, right? So now this stuff might not work as well against the Texans because there's tape on that. And we know how to defend that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Colts come up with in this, this window of this week in these 3 practices that they can fine-tune to feel comfortable with, to open up the playbook or open up, the offense even more to be able to get a W down in there. And they have to, first off, we cannot go 0-2 in the division to start the season off. We can't go 0-2 in the record, and we can't be 0-2 in the division to start things off with. I really feel like I'm mad at whoever made this scheduling for the Colts. Like, don't give me 2 divisional games at the beginning of the season like this with a rookie quarterback. You crazy? But that's neither here nor there. But we can't go 0-2, so we got to figure out a way where we can scrap together a win. And if it's going to be going basic, but we got to do things the correct way, it's getting the running game going.
Absolutely. And speaking of the run game, the final point I want to make is we can't make the mistake that we did in Jacksonville offensively, and that is give the ball to the opposing team in good field position as many times as we did Jacksonville. We gave Jacksonville the ball to start their drives at the 40-yard line or further 7 times between failed 4th down conversions, interceptions, and 2 running back fumbles. right? That's too many times given the opposing offense good field position.
We didn't even start talking about turnovers.
And a special teams mess up on the return, right? Where they had a great return as well. That's something that we have to clean up. We cannot. This is a game of field position, and you can't let them have the ball in such great field position that often and expect the defense to, game in, game out, drive in, drive out when they're, starting at the 40 to hold them to nothing or a field goal every drive. It's just that's a lot to ask of a defense.
It really is. It really. I mean, we didn't even get to it, but turnovers are your kryptonite on any team. I learned that very quickly. In college, you can turn the ball over and get away with the win sometimes. In the league, if you win a turnover battle, 90-something% of the time, you're going to win the football game. So if we turn the ball over more than them, chances are we're not going to win the football game. And so there's really no room for error when it comes to ball security. We've got to be secure with the football, whether that's throwing the ball or running the ball. We can't turn the ball over. And so when you look at it, the Colts really shot themselves they shot themselves in the foot a lot with the turnovers, with the poor field position. And they got to do a way better job of punting the ball, right? Moving the ball, pinning them back. In special teams, right? We can't give up those big returns. Just like you said, the big return killed you in the wrong time, right? And so, there's really no great time for it, but when it's crunch time, we definitely don't need it. And so, those things are things that they have to clean up as well. It's not just, okay, let's play better on defense, let's play better on offense. Like, let's look at what works inside of that. Like, what broke us down a little bit? It was the turnovers. It was the poor field position. It was the poor special teams plays at certain times, where you have to put a complete game together on all three. Like I said, to start this thing off with, in all three phases of a football game to be able to win a football game, right? And so they got to do that week 2, clean that stuff up so that they can be able to, really kind of sit back and get – I just want to see Anthony Richardson get more comfortable. And we can do that because I'm going to tell you right now, Houston ain't lighting it up over there either. Like, let's just be clear. Like, Stroud ain't lighting it up over there. I saw a lot of holes, and he took a lot of hits. He took a lot of hits on last Sunday. That Anthony didn't take a ton of big hits like how Stroud did, right? And he don't have the stature like Anthony does to where he can take those hits, right? And so I'm seeing these things where they're not super old, like uber aggressive either, right? They want to get the ball out of CJ Stroud's hands fast too, and we got to understand that. And that's what I'm saying, like, when it's pass plays, this defensive line's got to get to him because they like to move CJ Stroud around too, right? And so it's going to come down to they're trying to run bootlegs, and they're going to try to do some movement passes, and we just got to get back there and make him feel uncomfortable as well to make him make some bad decisions, and I think that they will turn the ball over more than we will if we can open our run game up.
Absolutely. Let's get into the prediction as we're coming down to the end of the show. What is your prediction for this Sunday?
I'm saying 24-17 Colts.
That's weird. That was the exact score that I had in my head, right?
No,
I feel like the Colts, I honestly, I don't expect the Indianapolis Colts to play a perfect game. I still feel like, obviously there's a lot of work in progress, but I feel like that they're going to execute better than what they did last week, especially on offense in different areas. They won't be perfect by any means, but the execution across the offensive line should look a little bit better. I feel like the running game should look a little bit better. It's just the little things. And I was noticing it wasn't like a terrible situation where a whole position group was having bad days. It was, one little tweak with one guy, right, on one specific play. If he plays this a little bit differently, maybe, a certain offensive lineman able to get that extra step in, that little extra push, that play goes from a 1-yard run game to 5 or 6, that literally it's a game of inches turns into yards. And I feel like there's, like you said, they're going to be hard in the training room, hard in the film room. They're going to get a little bit better. I feel like the Colts, Zach Moss should be back this week. That's going to be a plus for the running game. And I feel like, yes, the Colts should come away. Defensively, I feel like the Colts will probably show a little bit more man coverage than they did last week against Trevor Lawrence. I get CJ Stroud can run a little bit, but I am not afraid of CJ Stroud's deep ball because every time he threw that thing deep, he was 10 yards off the mark.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like, I feel like you could play a little bit of man, which is a lot easier for corners, especially young, inexperienced corners, man coverage. All corners can play man. It takes a little bit of time to really get comfortable in different zone schemes.
Right.
So, I like the 24-17. Any final words?
We get the run game going. We're good. Guys, I'll continue to say, give Anthony Richardson some grace. I saw some great things come from him on Sunday with him being poised, with him kind of, really trying to command the offense. And I think that that's all we can ask for. It's only week 2. This is the evolution of a football team. I believe, right, no pun intended, that, the Colts will be victorious. I think that they will have a better outcome than a lot of us are expecting. And I'm saying 24-17 because I'm going to go in the low end of the spectrum, but I think they're going to have a blow up game where they're going to get in the 30s. But I don't quote me on that. But I don't want to get everyone too excited. But I really feel like they're going to figure out who they are, and it's going to be a fun season to watch them.
Absolutely. The opportunity is there for a good offensive performance. Thank you again. Everybody, also, thank you for being here. This was Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Donald Thomas. This was Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. And as usual, go Colts.
Go Colts.
Do you believe?